Right on the mark, 9 o'clock.
So welcome everybody. I'm calling the meeting of the NCAC Bylaw Subcommittee to order at 9 o'clock. My name is Nancy Vandal, Chair. I have no conflicts. Can everybody please introduce themselves and state any conflicts?
Wyatt
Michael,
Angelo, no conflicts.
Michael Beachley, no conflicts.
Susan Schomburg, no conflicts.
Sype, no conflicts.
Okay, thank you. And as a result of some of the work Wyatt and I have done, I think I can safely say no conflicts for sure. So. Um, I've invited Sarah to join us. I don't know. I haven't heard back from her, so I don't know if she will, but I'll talk about that a little bit later too. I'm expecting Mark to be here. But in the meantime, I'd like to go ahead and just go through the agenda quickly. See if I can actually get to the right spot here. I'm going to try to be fancy. Okay, can everybody see the agenda?
Yep.
Okay. So we have the minutes. Did everybody have a chance to read Michael's minutes? Okay. And so we'll get to that in a moment. And then my report. As I said, I don't know if Sarah will be here. It's kind of a placeholder. I'm expecting Mark to be here. And then getting into policies, PP&R discussion. Particularly, I've taken out a policy 8 on working with other organizations or handling requests. I'm not quite sure what to title it. And I think, Tom, you did a nice job of titling it in the document. And then welcome, Mark. And then go through the other parts of the document as we have time. There's a lot of new material in there. And again, a huge thank you to Tom for assembling all of our input for discussion today. And then talking a bit about feedback session planning. I might move that actually up a little bit. And then meeting and action items summary. And if we have public comment, we'll if we have people, Mark, please feel free to just weigh in as you see fit. So any comments on the agenda? Upcoming dates, real fast. Our next meeting is going to be on the 21st. In 2 weeks, and then we have an executive board meeting at the end of March that we'll talk about more on the next bylaws subcommittee meeting, and then another meeting on April 4th, regular membership meeting on April 12th, which is the election of the 2 officers. Other committee people will be elected at the June meeting, and then a special membership meeting on May 31st. So, okay, any other questions, suggestions, changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, the agenda is approved. And I'm going to get out of that and then stop sharing. So I want to share some from the executive board meeting. We have received a request for promoting the road improvement project that's being handled by another group within Nescoin, and it's something that's come up from since last fall, where the county has apparently said that they will provide asphalt, like 800 tons of asphalt, a lot of asphalt, totaling somewhere around $80,000. And the NCA has agreed to provide a certain amount, like $25,000 toward that, but they also need more money to hire the contractor to install everything. All the installation of the asphalt would be done by Nescoin through this Road Warriors group that's been kind of managing things very nicely for the last several years, filling potholes and that kind of thing. But the whole purpose of the project is to try to actually get the roads fixed in a really good way, particularly in the village, and possibly there might be some more asphalt available for other parts of Nesquin. But they're asking for community to provide some of the funding for this as well as volunteer effort to work on it. But there would be a contractor providing a lot of the direction. So this came up, and Mark rightly said, as he told us in our last meeting also, that he didn't feel comfortable making a decision without some policies around it. So that's why we've got this separately on the agenda. And I sent out, actually, I think it didn't show up until last night for you guys to look at. We'll review it. Wyatt and I reviewed it a couple of days ago, and I sent it to Mark as well to have a chance to look at it. So it's a drafty draft, so we'll see if anyone has any input on that. But after the meeting where we were asking, it's Rand that's sponsoring it from the NCA, and he's also a member of our NCAC board, executive board. We asked him to just confirm that the county really is going to produce that money and that asphalt. And so he was going to go back and do that. So we subsequently received an email from Rand saying that he's pulling it just because it sounds like it would be difficult to actually get something in writing about this, although very convinced it's going to be done. It's just one of those things that's hard to actually get something. It sounds like there's some interesting accounting things so I'm convinced it will, but at this point he's pulled the request. But the larger issue remains. We had the issue that came up last meeting about the mail person needing to have some funding, and it sounds like that got resolved. It was reported to the board meeting they raised more than enough funds for that, so that's great. So anyway, that's one area that came up. I reported on our feedback session plans and the plan to have an adoption meeting on May 31st. And Alex is going to be doing some of the representing Mark at the April feedback session meeting. So he wasn't available on Tuesday nights. So the schedule, let me share again, the schedule was tentatively changed to Wednesday nights. And so I wanted to go over that with you, but otherwise the board approved it. So does this look okay to all of you to have the feedback schedule going to Wednesdays and Saturdays like we did before instead of Tuesdays and Saturdays?
That works for me.
My only question when I was looking at it on my schedule was the 19th is on Easter weekend, and I didn't know if we wanted to go with that or not. I just wanted to flag that.
Yeah, thank you,
date.
Susan. What do you think? Is that going to be an issue, do you think? People traveling on Easter typically?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Okay. All right, so
But the following, the 26th, is a Saturday, and I didn't know if that worked for people. If we changed the 19th to the 26th instead. After Easter.
just looking at why I didn't have it on there to begin with. Oh, because that's let me see what that is. You guys are all showing up to my calendar. I don't know why we don't have the 26th.
Nancy, do
That's-
you have Rand's
Oh,
proposed
that's
schedule?
probably
Is that
why.
maybe why you
Yes,
overlay
thank
it
you.
on top of this one? Or
Right. So thank you, Mark. So Rand announced his schedule. It looks like they're going to have community plan meetings on March 29th and April 5th, and another one on May 17th. Do you know if that's changed, Mark or Tom?
It hasn't changed as
would
far
know.
as I know.
Okay, so it looks like we could move the 19th to the 26th. Does anyone have any objection to that?
Nope.
Okay, well, thank you, Susan. And otherwise, these dates work for people?
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. I will make that adjustment.
And that's at 2:00 again, right?
Right.
Okay.
On the Wednesday ones, what time will we have it in the evening?
7 o'clock.
Okay,
And that's at the top. I've got the
Okay.
times. Yeah, the reason it's 2 o'clock is for the because of the farmer's market
oh,
being in
right,
the morning on Saturdays.
yeah.
Okay, and those dates all look good to you, Mark?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll attend as I'm able to. I get up pretty early in the morning. I think so 7 o'clock could be 4 a.m. But sometimes I'm up
Oh.
having coffee. So if I'm up having a cup of coffee, I'll drop in and Alex will run it, but
Yeah,
I might
yeah.
show up.
Mhm.
So
Okay, sounds good. All right, and then the board approved having a special meeting on May 31st to do the adoption meeting. So that's at May 31st at 1:30. And we don't really know, last time it took us close to 4 hours, I think, to adopt the bylaws, but hopefully there won't be quite as much interest this time. Well, no, I shouldn't say that. We want the interest, but hopefully it'll go a little
Controversy
faster.
is the word you were looking for.
Yeah. Yeah. We also talked a little bit about a procedure to register members, and particularly through Gary, and everybody seemed fine with that. I talked with Gary after, and he's trying to figure out how to be able to handle that through Zoom. And I think it's Biff who had handled that registration for the June 2023 meeting. So he was going to follow up Biff to see how he was able to do that. I'm sure it was through Zoom. It was when we registered for the meeting, if you all recall, instead of just having our names and emails, they asked for information about how we're members, our address, physical address, our home address, if we're not living in Nesquin, email, that kind of thing, more information. And that is pretty simple to fill out. You do it one time a year before the annual meeting. Pretty simple, and then have a button on the website to be able to register a new member. So I didn't hear any objection to that. It sounded like that was fine. We just need to figure out the logistics. So that was good. And then I want to talk, I did send an email so that's it for the board meeting, I think. Also talked to them about setting up NCAC emails for the officers and committee chairs, kind of like the bylaws one. And it sounded like Gary was going to take a look at doing that as well. I didn't hear any objection to that. I seem to appreciate that. And include on the website contacts. So after we met in our last meeting, I looked on the website, and there's actually a who we are page on the website already. It just doesn't have any email or contact information. It's strictly the info at, and it has the 4 officers. It doesn't yet include the committee chair people or anything, but it seems like that would be an easy way to add that email on that page. So I think that was it for the executive board meeting. And then Rand did update us on the community plan, but that was before the meeting that they had last week. So Tom, well, let me just mention first. I'd like a quickie report from Susan and Tom on outreach task force and community plan. But I did email Sarah again with this time with a list of all of our questions, at least as many of the questions I had, and asked her to please give me some time to just talk with her, or could she come to the meeting and go through some of these things. And I haven't heard back. I think she's very, very busy, but I will really, really, really follow up. I think and try to get her. She's extremely busy, but at least she has a list of what we're asking for, and hopefully we will get some answers soon. Or she could still come in today. I gave her the times of the meeting and said, come in anytime. We'd love to see you at any part of the meeting. So that's all on that. And then Tom, could you give us and Mark, I guess, give us an update on the community plan and how that might relate to what we're doing in terms of timing or other activities.
Well, we're getting some coherence in what the 406 zoning changes are going to be. And I think we're coming to coming to some conclusions on what we're going to recommend. It, this is my opinion only. My understanding is that we're probably going to be setting up, there are a couple of new kinds of dwellings being defined with 406, and we have the opportunity to define them for ourselves in terms of what the requirements are. And we're going through the cottage clusters right now, which is not something we officially had. And we're talking about landscape access, parking, and all of those things. And we're probably going to go ahead into triplexes, fourplexes, and townhomes, so we could officially have definitions for those and what the requirements are. That seems to be coming along, but it is slow. I'm not sure that the consultants actually helped that much.
Probably
But-
the opposite, but yeah. Luckily, she has you, Tom.
Well, at any rate, we're making progress. I have no idea whether or not we're going to make our professed dates for review. I think we're going to get input on the 29th?
Mhm.
But I don't think we're going to have a full description of what it is. We're likely going to have descriptions, excuse me, descriptions of what we think the new zoning things are going to be, and ask for inputs on that. And things like landscape requirements and, like I say, off-street parking.
Thank you. Any questions for Tom? And they are having a meeting on Monday, and Tom, you said you have a 40-page slideshow for it.
I think it's 40. I don't know.
Yeah.
I cut it down a little bit. Let's see, I could see. Oh, heck, no, I way over. It's only 25.
Oh, okay. So that will be an interesting meeting on Monday if anyone's interested in attending. It's open.
All about
like
cottage
ours.
clusters, which I think are really a great concept.
We're selling a property in Corvallis, a large property. It's an acre and a quarter right in the middle of town. And it's a very, very old one. It's one of the very first in the history of Corvallis. And they're building cottage clusters. They're going to do a cottage cluster there and keep the old main house, which was built a long time ago, as a community house for that cottage cluster.
Oh,
And
interesting.
and the whole neighborhood was very anxious about us selling, and because it's right next to Corvallis High School. And now they're very excited about it. So it's a new concept, and people like the idea.
Well, that's cool, Michael.
Yeah, it is.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you, Tom. Did you have anything to add, Mark?
Let's see. I think I attended the last meeting, and the community plan. I mean, Tom does a fabulous job with everything, just keeping everything straight and clear. And but they're really they are coming together, in my opinion, on now they're talking about how to present to the community, which I just think there's going to be a lot of questions, and they're aware of that. The committee, Tom and Lynn and Ran and Guy and Lori, they're all aware of that, and I think there'll be a lot of interest around it. But the committee is doing just a great job of really looking at these clusters and the housing, and it's. I think for a while there in the fall, it was sort of, I felt like it was stalling a little bit, but now I think it's really kind of taken off, and they're getting ready to present to the community, which is pretty exciting. So.
Well, that's great. Thank you. And then I'm going to ask Susan to report on the outreach task force and the monitoring task force a little bit, but and then we're going to get to the minutes, which I realize I overlooked. So Susan,
Yeah, so
have
exciting
some
for the
news.
outreach task force. I'm now no longer a committee of one. I'm a committee of four.
All right.
Recruited Lynn Wintermute from Hot Creek Hills. Heidi, I don't know how you pronounce her last name, Heidenreich from Somali.
Heidenreich.
Okay. And then Kim Anderson from the Hills of Neskowin. And so we've got 4 neighborhoods with point people, and I've got to reach out yet to South Beach and the Crest and Wainema and Slab Creek. We're rolling. And hopefully we'll have a meeting here shortly, and then offline, I'm going to ask Tom if I can borrow that letterhead that you so beautifully crafted, and I can put some text and get it up in the store, and then try to find the key to the golf course bulletin board and get something in that one, and just kind of, like show the mission statement, website, how to get in touch. And that's kind of my update on that.
That's great. So and Mark and Alex both got permission from Alexis to post in the store, which is great. So that's great.
And I can run, I don't know who I should send it to, but I mean, to have it approved, whatever goes in the store, I can get a mock-up and like send it. I don't know, it probably goes through the executive board, make sure that everything is on it that should be on it and nothing's on it that shouldn't be on it. So to speak.
And then you're going to chair the outreach task force, correct?
Yeah, I'm willing to now that I have a committee. If they want me.
Yeah. So one of our items in here is that we'll be talking about today is one of our policies is how we select a chair. So that'll be so anyway, that'll be going forward, but that's great news, Susan. And yeah, I think it's wonderful that that's moving along. And then I think, just like I do, you can send things to Mark if you have needing approval for stuff. And then the task force chairs, like the subcommittee chairs, are part of the executive board. So attend those meetings if you can, or have somebody. So that's great. And then you have some updates working with Guy on the monitoring task force. Correct?
Yeah, I put the draft that we had and I sent it to Guy to weigh in and sent comments to Nancy and Tom separately. And Tom's put them into the draft as things to discuss. And there were some tweaks that, got put in as far as importance. We added the fire chief and what was the other? Police to the primary reports. Initially, Guy had said secondary, but then he changed his mind, and I agree with that. I mean, if there's something weird going on in Nescon, we need to know about it sooner rather than later.
That's great. Thank you. So that's all I have on my report. Before we get to the minutes, does anyone have any questions for me on any of that? Okay. So
Letterhead's on its way to you, Susan.
I'm sorry.
Letterhead's on its way.
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, it's quite nice. I can give you further credit if you like.
No credit necessary.
So I'm going to share the minutes. Okay, why did it go to that? Well, shoot. Okay. So here are the minutes, and did anyone have any comments, corrections to the minutes?
I thought it was a masterpiece of brevity.
I did note that it was short and sweet, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that was great. Okay, hearing no corrections, the minutes are approved as presented. Thank you very much, Michael.
Welcome.
So Mark, you are on.
Okay, so I guess I'll talk just a little bit about I had a chance to talk to this week to both Ran and Sarah, and I talked to Sarah actually yesterday, and about these requests that were they're sort of filtering up to the NCAC for various things. just to recap, in the fall, we got the request for a group that was advocates for a ballot measure in Tillamook County to come and present to the NCAC. And I politely declined that request and didn't hear anything after that from them. Then we got a request from, I think it was from RAN, to enter into a grant agreement with the NCA for the OWL for some audiovisual equipment and to hold meetings. And we didn't know how to handle that one, but basically said we didn't really understand. You know, we didn't want to take control of that equipment because we were unsure of being able to secure it and how that would work. And so I think it's that one, the NCA is going to house that, and I think we can borrow that. So we didn't enter into a grant agreement with the NCA on that. And then we had the mail carrier request. It was a request from a group, not a Sarah or Susan, you know this, but not a formally organized group, just a group
Right.
of residents in
Yeah.
Nesco to advocate at the NCAC meeting during public comment for donations for to raise funds for equipment for the mail carrier for his car and things. Good for good cause. And then the most recent one is from RAN to well, it's not from RAN, it's from, I guess it's more from the NCA, but from RAN to but he was a spokesperson to have us send out emails requesting donations for the road project. Nancy spoke about that. They're about $11,000 short, I think, yet to meeting their goal. And so so those are the kinds of things we've gotten in the last 6 or 8 months, and we don't really have a way to handle those. And so we're talking about how to do that. I talked to Sarah last night, and I had a brief conversation with her. She is terribly busy. She said she's going till 8 o'clock every night on meetings, and she's just super busy. And I didn't want to take a lot of time of her time. She calls right around dinner time for her, and so it was a brief conversation. But basically, what I guess what I'm seeing is, and I explained this to her, what I'm seeing is that groups, we've got public service announcements requests, and I forgot to mention those. Wyatt and Tom, you're aware of these assert and I think the first aid training maybe. Those are different in my opinion, and I explained this to Sarah. I said those are just a public service announcement that we announce. It has no money attached, no political action to it. It's just, and I think I'm pretty comfortable with those. Let's just do those in announcement section of but when we get into political things, I personally think we want to stay away from that. Now, Nancy's put together a proposed policy on this, I think, that speaks to that and speaks to the importance of having both sides represented at the meeting. So that's fine if we want to go down that road. So the other one has to do with funds, asking for donations or raising money. And Sarah, I think Sarah is going to take your draft, Nancy, and run it by county council.
Okay, so you sent that to her then?
I didn't send it to her. She
Okay.
said, I've got something from Nancy, but I haven't looked at it, Mark. And
Okay.
I said, okay, maybe that's what it is. And so she's going to run it by county council. And just as I talked with her, I think she understood the sort of the conundrum, and I think she sort of agreed that, I mean, getting into the finances or being what I explained to her is that groups, and when I talked to Rand, he talked about this. He said the NCA has a database of about 250 names on it, and so the NCA can email 250 people that they're looking for donations. The golf course has another 150 names on it. And he said, we can email the golf course members and we can ask for donations. And but what I see is that groups are going to want to access the NCAC because our database is 720 or 710 or whatever the number is, and to reach out to a larger audience, which I understand. I understand that. But in our conversation, she sort of felt like I do in terms of this is an advisory committee, and the mission of this committee is to do land use issues and for the and we're advisory to the county. And so she sort of agreed that we shouldn't maybe be because right or wrong, if we email it, we've put our stamp on that. We have put our stamp on, we've accepted yours, and if we get a request from somebody else that we don't accept, we've declined yours. And maybe the NCAC in the future will want to do that. I don't know, but I just don't think it's a good policy to get into. And so, and back to the conversation with Rand, he's withdrawn his request for this to access the database and have us send it out. He's going to do it through the NCA. He's going to do it through the golf course, of which I'm a member of both. And so, I said, well, I'll get that, and so he's going to do that. He says it's about 400 people instead of 700 people. And he said, we'll just go that route. And I think Sarah, if I think back, I think she said that Oceanside has other organizations that aren't their NCAC organization that can request funds. And so maybe that's another way to do it, is to have, I know we did a sort of a GoFundMe, I think, Susan, for the mail carrier.
Yeah, we
Is
did.
that right? And it was done really quickly.
Yeah, in 48
think he
hours,
said.
we raised
Yeah,
over $10,000.
Right.
And we were
Wow.
only trying to get
Right.
5.
Right.
And then we
Right.
put it on I put it on Nesco and Friends as a link if
Yeah,
people were
yeah.
interested.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so that's another option actually for the NCA and Ran and the
Mhm.
Road people, is to put it on a Facebook page, right?
Yeah.
Or
So-
Nescon and Friends'
so-
Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I that's kind of where it's at right now. I still don't think there's any sort of final resolution to it. It's in Sarah's aware of it, and she was going to consult with county council about it. And so we'll get some direction on that. But I would just say for the time being, it's just like timeout. We're not gonna consider those at this point.
Okay,
So-
I did not send that to her. I sent her an email
Okay.
with all of the lists, and that was in it, but not the proposed plan. And so
Okay.
I'll after the meeting, I'll send her a note and CC you, Mark, and with the proposal after we've had a chance to talk about it here in the meeting coming up. Because there may
Okay.
be some other people other thoughts that people have on this document as we go through it. But thank you for going through that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else that you'd like to report?
I think that's it, Nancy. I think that's it. Thanks.
Okay. And at this point, have you heard of anyone who's stepping up to put their name in the hat for chair or secretary?
I haven't been contacted by anybody, no.
Okay.
You are going to run again though, aren't you?
I haven't, I have said no, Tom, and I am thinking about that still, so.
The outreach committee will be contacting you.
Okay. Well, I'm aware that I'm aware, and I just have some things I have to consider. So thank you.
Thank you. We will just say we think you've done an incredibly fabulous job. So
And
that's
it'll be
enough
easy,
said.
and it'll be easier once we get the policies in place.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And the community plan being done, and yeah.
I can't tell you how much easier this group, your group, has made just the structure that we have now. has made, how much easier it's made being a chair,
Hmm.
because it's not me making really these decisions. It's groups of people who are making these decisions and having conversations, and people weighing in on things. And so in my opinion, it's just been it's been easy. It's been easy when I get hard questions to go to the executive board or to go to the bylaws committee. And that process has been, I think it really strengthens the NCAC. And whether I run or whether I don't run, I hope that whoever assumes a position follows in these steps, because I think it would make the organization stronger and more reputable and more unbiased and all those things. So
I think so too. I think you've been really supportive of our efforts, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And hopefully we've made a difference over time. So I'm going to move us on to the policies, procedures, and references discussion. And I separated out policy 8. So I'm just going to first share that. It was in the draft 23 that came out last night with Tom, but I'm just going to separate it out. So as Mark mentioned, let me try to get this thing up on the other direction. Okay. That we have a number. So the first paragraphs are just about that we receive these occasional requests and how to submit them. And then we're going into the different types of requests. So we get partnership requests, like to partner with another entity, and that may include funding. We get requests to promote another group, speaking at a meeting, sending out emails, et cetera. And then we have different types of requesters. So this is kind of how it's organized, and we don't need to come to any final decisions, but I did want us to take a look at this, and you can throw out any suggestions, please. That all such requests should be submitted to the NCAC Executive Board by emailing the info at and including the info, and then in a future procedure will be the information that should be included in the request. I first wanted to get the policies agreed on, and then we can write the procedure on what information would be included. So under partnership, consideration of the request to partner with another entity should be made by the executive board with the following priorities. Does the request meet the mission of the NCAC as described in Article 2 of the bylaws, and how so? Or not, how or not? Does the request, and that to me is the number one. If it doesn't meet our mission, we probably just shouldn't even be doing it. Does the request provide significant value to the NESCON community and the NCAC membership?
That's sort of the same thing.
It can be a little different. It may be that it's not exactly within the mission, but it could provide significant value. I don't know. I can't think of any examples to that effect,
Yeah, I
Tom.
was just going to ask you who determines the value and what does that mean? Yeah.
Right. So that would be in the
And it's kind of a double
procedures.
whammy there. Not only is it value, but significant value.
Right.
Mm.
So that really needs to be defined. Does the requester have a similar or compatible mission if they're a different group to the NCAC? Is there a conflict with other entities that should be considered?
That's a good one.
If a request for partnering on grant applications or funding, really. And I really should have Tom do this.
I turned those into bullets rather than,
Okay.
but yeah.
Consider how the funds would be used and by whom. Who would own and maintain any equipment, which came up with the request to have us, the NCA had, as Mark mentioned last fall, had said that they would fund hybrid meeting equipment, but they wanted the NCAC to maintain it, hold it, distribute it out to various entities who might want to use it and be responsible for it. And ultimately, they agreed that they would do that function and we could borrow it if we wanted to. So that just would be a lot for us to take on.
So
How
the list under number 5 really should be part of the grant application itself, should it not?
it should. So when we get to the procedure part of it, that would be in there. Yeah. How much time would be required of NCAC leadership or volunteers? Who would handle the monies, and what processes would be in place to ensure that proper financial procedures are used? And what other funds or activities would be needed, and are they verified? So these requests have come in, really helped to write this, because one of the questions is the money really there for Tillamook County to provide that asphalt? And if not, if we're actually asking the community for money, even if it's just to send something out communicating this need, even if we say we're not endorsing it, in a sense, we are endorsing it, right? So just by putting it out there. If for some reason it turns out the monies aren't there from the county, then what happens to those monies that are donated, et cetera? And so,
Nancy, question for you.
Yeah.
I really like the list so far about partnership considerations, but my question is, does that list cover the risk to reputational risk to the NCAC?
Right.
And I don't know if it's implicit in some of those, or implicit maybe, but I wonder if it needs to be explicit.
Yeah. Good thought. Right.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. That ought to be under number 5. Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
Any other thoughts on that part of it? Because this is the more difficult one.
No, I did have one thought about funding, because I know in previous meetings, people have thought about wanting to have the NCAC advertise when the watershed wants to acquire land.
All right.
And I don't know how we would capture that. And if that, I mean, it's for the benefit of the community, how does that factor in?
So that's another good example.
Well,
So
this raises that issue that Mark touched on,
Mm.
and that is we're an advisory organization.
Mhm.
And even so, we're going to be stepping over that line of an advocacy organization as well from time to time, or at least requested to be so. And we can't just ignore that. We have to actually affirmatively deal with it in some respect. So that is an interesting issue that you raised, Susan.
and that might be something that does meet those requirements, right? It might be requirements 1 and 2. It's part of the mission. But who decides? It would be the executive board, because the request would go to the executive board. We hopefully in the procedures, we would actually have more detail on how that analysis is done by the executive board to come to a determination. Is this big enough for people to see, actually?
Yeah, well, that's better. Good. Thank you.
I do think that, so my 2 cents, I think that in my conversation with Sarah, and it will be interesting to see what county council says about this, because I think that, I mean, as Susan said, they were looking for $5,000 and they got $10,000 in 24 hours or 48 hours or something like that. And so there's an ability, I think, in Nescoin to contribute quite a bit of money in and where does the NCAC fit in that? Is that something that that the county's going to be okay with the NCAC being involved with or not? To me, that's the question. And so it'll be interesting to see what they say.
Mhm, mhm.
I have-
Nancy, just a question, and it's a quite of a small one, but in looking at the wording of the first paragraph, where it says shall be made by the executive board with the following priorities. And then instead of priorities, it's questions. And
Uh-huh.
so shouldn't we make those consistent, i.e., should subparagraph 1 say that the request meet the mission of the NCAC as described?
Yes.
And that the request provides significant value. And
Yeah, that's a good point, Wyatt. So
Uh,
either we,
Before you go any farther, could you save that as a different name so that you can do a diff so I can tell how to change the other document?
absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good point. Thank you.
Because you're not editing the actual document.
No, I'm not. Yeah.
One other technicality before we go any farther.
Uh-huh.
You do say priorities there, and you have it numbered. Numbered
Right.
is different than bullets.
Yes, it would be
Bullets
better
are
to
of
have
equal
bullets.
weight. Numbers have to be done in that order.
Uh-huh.
So is this a gauntlet or is this just a set of priorities?
Yep. Thank you.
A
So
gauntlet.
those you don't bother doing it now, but those should become bullets, I believe.
Right. Right. And then let me get Wyatt's priorities, not questions. Really, the question part of it would be in the procedures for the
Yeah.
board to consider. So good points, both of you. Thank you. Okay, so I've got that noted. Okay, any other comments on this before we go on to promotion?
I have a question for Mark. And looking at this from the standpoint of the executive board, is this a kind of a workable framework for you folks?
Yeah, you know, yes, I go back, Wyatt, a lot of times to Article 2, which is the sort of the object, but the mission of the NCAC. And at the bottom of that number 2, I think it says, and other things that the community deems important. So there's this catch-all. Safety's listed, land use is listed, those things are listed. And so, it's going to be, is it significant value? Does it meet the mission? That's just really going to be kind of a hard, I mean, the roads that's really a safety issue, but
Mhm.
it is. And I understand that. I just don't, for me, it's just, yeah, I think this helps. This will definitely help Wyatt. I just worry about us getting into sort of, and I'll just say it, just money issues in the NCAC. I just
Mhm.
worry about that. I just worry about that. So
Yeah.
everything comes down to money. It always does. And once you open the door to advocating for this or advocating for that, or saying this meets the box and that meets or doesn't meet the box, it gets really sticky. So, but maybe that's what you have to do. I don't know.
Yeah, that's why we get paid the big bucks, right?
Yeah.
I I think it would have been a no-brainer if we knew that the county was really providing the asphalt in that particular request. The rest of it, it sounds like a great project that's highly needed, and seems like it could be appropriate for the NCAC to weigh in that circumstance. But
Yeah.
yeah, it would certainly be easier if we just said we won't promote, we won't do anything regarding money. That's another option that we could do on this. So something to think about, and that may be what Sarah and the attorney come back with. but there could be some real value in having a,
Mhm.
promoting something like that. And
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is partnering versus promoting, but if we go on to promotion, then we can go back to the whole thing after consideration of request to advertise or promote information through the NCAC email list or to speak at a membership meeting should be made by the executive board with the following priorities. And again, we'll fix that to your thing, Wyatt, with questions
Yeah.
versus and take out the numbering. Does the request meet the mission of the NCAC as described in Article 2? So a lot of this is the same, right? The difference between partnership and promotion is that we would actually enter into an agreement with another organization to work with them on a given goal. And an example of that, I think, would be the hybrid meeting equipment, right? That was a request to enter into a partnership with the NCA on that. And we got an agreement for them to just handle that, which is good. But the promotion can be this road warriors, the road project. So the same kinds of requests, same kinds of questions. Is the request timely? What type of request is being made? So now we're breaking out. Are they requesting to speak at a membership meeting? Are they requesting to have a bulletin board item included in an NCAC email blast? Maybe one or more of these, or a request to be included in the bulletin board section of the website. So we don't have that section of the website yet. It would be a new section, but it could be added as a information from other organizations. So again, for all of them, it would need to. But the type of request to speak at a meeting, is the item appropriate and worth the attention of the membership? How much time would be needed or allotted? Would it involve a vote or approval of the membership? So a lot of this could be handled in the procedure on, for somebody to fill out a form requesting this, or an email. Doesn't have to be formal, but an email, they should have these considerations. Is it political in nature? So if it involves candidates, like a county commissioner election, the executive board should decide whether to hold a candidate forum, and separate procedures are needed. All candidates must be invited. I don't know if that's something we would ever get involved with, but it's possible. I mean, I think the county commissioners are regional, aren't they? Different parts of the county.
I believe they are.
So
I have a question. And let's put it into a context. If someone wants to speak on behalf or even against the road project, we can talk about whether or not we're going to, give them permission to speak and so on and so forth. But whenever there's advocacy let's say just in that area alone, that is political. By definition, that's political. When we are using discussions and advocacy and argument in trying to make decisions and pass policy and so on, that's a political process. And so, it's for me, it's way too easy when we start hearing people say, well, you shouldn't be political. Well, yeah, we should. I mean, that's democracy. Democracy is a political process of forwarding and arguing and debating issues and positions and coming up with answers. It doesn't have to be candidates for a public office. That's the most obvious one. But I'm not sure how far we want to begin to delineate doing this or not. I can't really ferret that out. We are already in a political issue because there's somebody who's going to say, wait a minute, I don't want this road. This road's been fine the way it is for 50 years. Why should I be taxed, or why should I blah 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 blah? And now we're in a political situation.
yeah, although I hear what you're saying, Michael. I think on any issue, there's going to be differences of opinion,
Yes, yes.
but political in terms of these kinds of discussions, I think tend to be either candidates or ballot measures typically, right? governmental
Well,
kinds of things. I mean, Robert's rules will handle anyone who would want to speak against having a, a presentation, or if the road people came in to talk about raising money for the road project, for example, in a meeting or in an email, more in the meeting, people would just through Robert's Rules of Order be able to push back on that, correct?
yeah, but my point is not that so much as that it is that we shouldn't be afraid of being a political animal, because we are. I mean,
Right.
that's that we're precisely right in that zone.
Right.
Because we are an advocacy. We are advising the county on decisions and arguments and debates and issues and so on and so forth. And I guess, personally, I'm tired of people saying, that's just politics. Yeah, it is.
So Michael,
Yeah.
would you suggest changing the sentence, is it political in nature, to a different set of words?
Yeah.
Partisan?
Well, it doesn't need to be partisan to be political. And
No, it doesn't.
No.
and this specifically, if it involves candidates that can be partisan or nonpartisan, right? The thing about candidates is we wouldn't be endorsing anybody, period. Wouldn't do it. But we might want to hold a candidate for them.
Well,
I doubt that we would, but it could be in there that if there's some reason, we've got two local candidates for an office, and the only candidate I could think of would be county supervisor, right? I can't think. I guess you could have planning commission or something like that. It may be that we would never do this, but I threw it up here just because it's possible.
well, but
And
there's a line to be drawn, I guess, or not. I mean, we are de facto the one opportunity for the community of Nescowan to carry
right.
out a debate,
Mhm.
regardless of what that debate is. And should we be in that position of providing that opportunity, or do we want to back off and not provide that opportunity? That's really what we're talking about, I think.
It's exactly right, Michael. I think that's the question on, do we even include this in the
Mm.
policies?
Yeah.
If we do, then we would have a separate set of procedures on how you run a candidate forum, which I'm very familiar with how you do, and could write that up. It's there we might want to partner with another organization like the League of Women Voters, or bring someone in who's
Yeah.
who's trained on how you handle the
Well, yeah,
questioning and all that. But
I like
the
that
other
idea.
yeah, the other is if it involves a ballot measure, which came up to us, as Mark mentioned last fall, to support. They didn't ask us to support, but they asked us to bring in the campaign committee for the Tillamook County emergency radio ballot measure. And they asked us right before the executive board meeting, right before a membership meeting, where there really wasn't enough time to go back and, at least, I don't know about anybody else, knew whether there was a campaign against it. That if it does involve a ballot measure, the executive board needs to decide whether to accept it. And if we decide to, then representatives of both sides need to be invited to speak. So that's just typical with any kind of now, it could be the executive board decides that they want to take a position on a ballot measure, and then you wouldn't have to invite both sides to speak. But I don't know that we want to authorize the executive board to take a position, or if the executive board would even want to take a position themselves. So it's simpler to invite both. I think it's cleaner to invite both sides, but I think in the procedures we should have how much time would be needed to be able to determine that, right? Getting a last minute request. But that was a little awkward to say no, and Mark didn't do that on his own. He brought it up to the executive board, and the executive board decided that we wanted to say no to the request. But two county commissioners were on that campaign committee, and along with some others. And so it's a little awkward when we're an entity of the county to say no to two county commissioners on a campaigns thing, right? So it's helpful to have these procedures.
I will just raise something for us to consider as we go along. And that is, let's assume we have two county commissioner candidates. one of which is in support of our community plan and the continuing existence of the NCAC, and one who is against it.
Mhm.
And so then we are faced with the conundrum of supporting whether we support the one that is consistent with our goals and mission or whether not to.
Well, I think that is right here. No endorsements of candidates. We would just never, ever get involved with an endorsement of candidates. If we were a 501c3, we would not be allowed to. If we were a 501c4, we would be allowed to, but would we? And as an entity of the county, I would very much think we wouldn't, but this is a big one. Check with Tillamook County on any such,
Mhm.
on any such kind of a thing. I think we would have to. I think that has to be a requirement that for any such thing, we'd have to check with them as an entity of the county.
I-
That would be our safety valve.
Yeah. I do think that I think this conversation is a really good conversation to have, and everybody's bringing up really good points. I think that as the NCAC is seen as a really strong organization, in my opinion, because of the work everybody's doing, I think the NCAC will get more requests.
Hmm.
I just think that they're going to be looked at as, I mean, I'm guessing a little bit here, but the work that's been done here by you folks and by the community plan committee, I just think we're sort of on the radar for people now
Mhm.
as I think a strong organization. And so I
Mhm.
do think there is going to be many requests and many varied requests coming forward.
I think you're right on, Mark, and it's gonna, my guess is it's gonna grow and
Right.
become more important because
Yeah.
it is probably the only opportunity people can be involved. So, I think this whole issue right here that we're dealing with is one that we need to spend some time on. And,
Yeah.
if there are any issues of controversy or potential controversy, then I think it's our place to provide, if requested, an opportunity for discussion and argument and debate, but not take a position. That that we can provide a forum.
Wow.
And that's the best we can do, and probably a good thing for us to be able to do for this community.
And I second that. And Wyatt, I was going to just get back to also and say that example you brought up can be handled through a candidate forum. You ask the candidates in the candidate forum, what their views are on this and that, and very specific things, and hopefully they would say, you never know, but hopefully they would say what their views are, and the membership could then determine how they're going to vote
Mhm.
in an election. But we're not taking a position ourselves on the ballot measure. We could actually decide we're going to have a vote of the membership at the conclusion of presentations from both sides. But we may decide, no, we're just presenting the information to the membership, and they could take their own positions. So, but I do think having the NCAC come out, taking a position of support or opposition on a ballot measure could be within our mission.
I agree.
Yeah.
It could be, and I think that's the operative word. It could be.
Right.
But we have to be careful.
Right.
Very, very careful in that area, because it could be damaging to the organization.
Right.
To
So it
credibility
absolutely.
and power and authority and so on and so forth.
Right. Which is why all this is up here too. So, yeah. So that's speaking at a membership meeting. You'll see some duplication on some of these others, having a bulletin board item included in the NCAC email blast. Is it appropriate, worth the attention of the membership? Is it controversial? If it's controversial, more attention should be paid to understanding the issues and whether there is significant enough value for the NCAC to be involved. And I'm guessing, Tom, that when you go through this more carefully, you will be changing a bunch of these shoulds and coulds and cans and to other words. But
Yeah.
yeah. But
And I'm wondering if we should have them as questions or statements.
Hmm.
I think that
Yeah.
probably statements are stronger in that it's a
Right.
position, you will have this rather than do you have this?
Right. And I think
But-
that gets back to what Wyatt was saying earlier, and I agree. I think that's the tack to take is change that to statements.
Mhm.
I agree. So do you want to handle that, Tom, or do you want me to edit it and send it to you?
Um,
Why don't I do it?
Mm.
I'll do it and send it to
okay,
you. Okay. Um, okay. And then so the email blast, basically, we kind of decide, is it just a bulletin board item, like the CERT needs more volunteers or the fire department needs more volunteers? It's pretty cut and dried, but it could be something with, we want you to fund, if we need help with funding the road project, that could be one of these kinds of things too. And then included on the bulletin board section. For that, it would be something that would be probably the communications task force would have to be monitoring to do website maintenance, making sure that things are current. But basically, a lot of the same considerations for each of these different things. So maybe the organization might be done a little differently of this document, but it seemed like the easiest would be to, even if there's duplication, to have the 3 different types of requests in there. And it could be that an organization or the requester will want more than one, right? They may want to have a bulletin board item. They might want to have an email blast. They might want to be able to come to a meeting and talk. So, and then the types of requesters might be government agencies, like Susan, you mentioned, was it the water?
Oh, yeah, the
Or-
water district.
Wanted to have something on some promotion of buying property, and
Mhm.
were they asking for money, donations toward that?
Yeah, they're working on buying more watershed land.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'm
and that
aware of it.
and that could end up meeting our mission, right? So
Very much so.
It could be community groups like the NCA or others, the Road Warriors group. It could be political campaigns, and by political, ballot measure or candidate. It could be individuals, it could be businesses. So haven't really expanded on that. So this is kind of a start, but any other thoughts on this before we edit it?
Well, just a caution that in watershed issues, it may seem to be in the interest of the community, but you can also plan on some other groups saying, wait a minute, there are environmental issues, da, 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 and down the road we go. And it becomes then a controversial issue. I'm not on that. So, I mean, that's not my point, is to pick a side over. But I certainly recognize when and where and how controversy rises in what appears to most people to be no-brainers.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, look at the world. That's
Right.
Yeah.
There,
No, you make a very good point, Mike.
there was one a little while ago when we were having all the bear issues, and we had the one sheet that was put on the website with permission, which for safety reasons.
Mhm.
That was kind of about using locking garbage cans and being aware of bears and that kind of thing, right?
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
yeah. Okay. Well, any other discussion on this, or we can, sounds like, Mark, that you're okay if we come back and look at this after we've heard back from Sarah, and if anyone has any comments on it, please let me know. We can update this draft for the next meeting.
Yeah, I think this looks good, and I think as a start, I think, and have Sarah look at it in county council, and when I think about this, I mean my first reaction is there's so many things and so many questions, and I might lean on the side of trying to say, wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. But Michael spoke really well about us being that kind of organization that really people need to maybe come to, and we have conversations about these things. And I think that's the better way to do this, just to assume that's going to happen and to sort of embrace that and have a somewhat a structure around it so that we can deal with it when it comes into the space for the NCAC. So that's
Right.
probably the best way to do it. Yeah.
Okay. I also think, the key thing too is the leadership, the chair, and who's in the chair to be able to approach this in the right way as well. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
Okay. Enough said. Well,
I,
thank you for,
I have a
for,
couple, I have a couple of structural things offline I'll talk to you about, but
sounds
yeah,
good. Okay. I
nothing
appreciate that.
substantive, just structural.
Yeah, no, that's great, Tom. I'll update this and send it to you, and you can send me or we can talk after. That sounds great. Thank you. I'm now going to turn it over to Tom to go into the rest of the updates.
Oh,
And I
would
do want to mention at our next meeting, Tom's not going to be able to be there, but I think we still need to have the meeting. It just we have so much going on. So and Tom and I were talking also earlier in the week, and it's possible we have so much stuff and really so little time that we might want to do a partial acceptance of the policies and procedures at the May meeting, and depending on how far we get the feedback sessions, and then go back and finish them up, in the next fiscal year, early in the next fiscal year. But hopefully we can actually get it done. We'll see how it goes. Well, you're on, Tom. Oh, let me make sure you can share. Hang on. Okay, I think you can share.
Try to figure out which screen is which. Doesn't look right. Okay, that changed. All right. Screen 1 is now screen 2. Okay, fine. Are you seeing the
Yes.
my
Yes.
email or the document?
The document.
Okay. We have a lot of little things in here. That, thanks to Susan, we're caught. I'm in my own defense. I'm going to say I really haven't gone through top to bottom looking at style. So, but I don't think any of these things are particularly controversial. Policies rather than policy procedures, because we have more than one.
So I will just say, Tom, whenever I speak about this, I usually use the wrong word for references. I say resources. And I'm just wondering if resources make sense as opposed to references. I don't know. I'm just going to throw that out for your consideration offline.
A reference is somewhat can be passive. A resource is not passive. So some of these things, as in a map, is a reference. Just semantics. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna.
It's not important.
Okay, I have to review. Okay, so no objections to these, I assume?
No.
Okay. Let me go ahead and I will accept those. I'm trying to close out the diff. Okay, what is it doing? I love Word. Yes, I do.
And you've saved it for policy 24 now, right?
Not yet, but I will. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Now let's see if it'll behave itself. It won't. Okay, well, we're gonna have to do it the way it is.
And today's date.
It'll update automatically.
Oh, okay, great.
And so conflict of interest is probably the first substantial thing we have.
Mhm.
I don't know why that is so light. If people be able to read that?
Barely.
Yeah.
It's quite light.
It's like it's
Hmm.
taken a different style to make it blue
Yeah,
like that.
that
The
is
version I was reading came up as pink, I think.
interesting. Now, that was, the comment was meant to be read. Let me do set the markup. No markup. Okay.
It's interesting how pink has become a political statement.
Okay. Well, you're gonna have to, I think for the interest of clarity, that's a whole lot easier to read than that light blue. I think I would have to reboot in order to get its mind back together. But this is this should have been
Oh, that's better.
read because those are comments are not meant to be part of the thing. Okay. So
Okay.
anybody there's conflict of interest. Nancy?
Yeah, so I think this was mainly Wyatt, but I think we can take out some of those notes down below. Like define bias versus conflict. I think Wyatt's note kind of talks about that. Is that correct?
Yeah,
And that,
Um, so
and this is
so
actually,
I think some of this, yeah, that was already done later. This goes into 3 different sections. It goes
yeah,
into policies, procedures, and references. So
so there's,
I think I think all that stuff down below was done.
yeah,
Yeah.
and this comment I did, okay. People agree with that statement, that basically hearing no objections.
Yeah. So the documentation that we've added, which I don't think actually got in there, but
Yes, did.
oh, did it? Okay, great.
Okay.
Sorry, I missed that.
Conflict of interest. Oh, okay. Looks like Word is having a day.
I was telling Tom, I'm the Tom for another organization's policies and procedures, and I started from scratch with a new document, and I don't know how he's doing this. I had fits. I almost called him a number of times to try to get some help on Word formatting for a complex formatting. Oh my God.
Okay, that's what it should have been.
Okay. So that's the procedure.
That's the procedure. And then we have conflict of interest resources.
Right. So like the flowcharts in there, it's just it's not, there's no link to it, I guess. Did we decide if we want to have a link to it, or whether the flowchart's a 2-page thing, and it's really great. And then this Oregon Ethics Commission, a guide for public officials, is great on helping laying things out on if you're a volunteer, how do you fit in, and how do you determine what a conflict is? And Wyatt and I both looked at that and really liked them. And the only people who are going to care are the executive board members. We're the only ones who have to state any conflict. So yeah, so
I can lift that
yeah,
and ignore any copyright problems, but
yeah, I think we can lift it. The question was whether we could edit it because it's not just for volunteers. But we can contact the
yeah,
Oregon Ethics Commission and ask them. I'm sure they have it public, so I'm sure they'd be fine. But it really talks about how the first page talks about that what is what what is a conflict. It's and we talked about this some last meeting, it just lays it out. You must be taking an official action within your role as a public official. And the other document says, yes, we are public officials, we on the NCAC. And then there has to be a financial impact, and or there are people in your lives that could have an impact. And so all of those have to be. And then it lays out what an actual conflict is versus a potential. a conflict of interest and how those relate. So, and then down below it talks about further what you have to do if you have a conflict. So we're in this any other appointed official, including public employees. If we could take out all the other parts of it, it would be a little simpler.
Okay, so I can actually take that page as it is, and I can do a jagged edged extract, so it's obvious that that's not the only thing.
Okay.
And include that, and then I'll include the have any questions part.
Yeah, and then
when I
this
come
minimum
around.
votes exception, I think needs to be included also.
Okay. Is that my directive? Committee, subcommittee? Okay.
That would be great. I can't think that the Oregon Ethics Commission is going to care about that. And then the other document is too big to actually put in our resources, but a link to it, it really lays out in a cogent way, as opposed to some of the League of Oregon Cities documents don't, as well as the Oregon Ethics Commission Guide for Public Officials really lays things out quite well. And certain pages are more relevant than others, but I don't know that we want to actually limit it. But anyway, it's excellent.
Got a spelling error up above in Community Plan Steering Committee. Should be hybrid, shouldn't it, instead of hybrid?
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, do you want links to both the Ethics Commission Guide for and generally?
Yes, I think so. Either,
Okay. And
yeah,
then-
we were talking, Tom, about whether to put them on our website, but I think the only people who care are going to be the executive board. So I don't know if it's worth having on our website is under the references section. But this way, the danger of this is that a link could be broken at some point. We would have to just, but we'll have to do that with other links anyway.
Yeah, but the other
But-
danger is that it becomes stale. That
Exactly.
What we have is not what they say.
Right. So I think
I think
linking
that's a bigger
directly to
danger.
these documents would be good. I can
Yeah.
get those links for you.
I think you already provided them. I just didn't, I was too lazy.
Well, no, you were busy. You were doing a tremendous amount of work. So
Okay, I'll include the graphics on that one as we discussed. And point to that one and that one and that one. Okay.
yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Does anyone have any comments on any of this? And thank you to Wyatt for drafting the language.
Okay, go back to this one. So do we agree with this one?
Mark, you're muted, but I can't tell if you're trying to talk. Okay.
So are we okay with that?
Any objections? Okay, hearing none, we approve policy 3.
I would the one thing I would say is that I've referenced the ethics committee as a school board member before with some questions, and they're very good about responding. So it's an open door
Yes.
for any of us at any time. That's what I would say.
Thank you. And that's something I meant to add in. It's on the list of questions I sent to Sarah is can we contact, is there any objection if we were to contact the Oregon Ethics Commission with these kinds of questions directly, or would we need to go through the county? And so yes, could you make a note of that, please, Tom, that
Well, I'm not sure that that's completely true because the county may have an opinion which is different than my personal opinion. If I personally think that there's an issue and the county doesn't agree, I still have an issue.
true. But could we go ahead and have the authority to, as an individual, to contact the county, the Oregon Ethics Commission with the question on whether or
Actually,
not?
it would be as an organization because as an individual, we can always do it.
Well,
Right.
it'd be as a representative of an organization,
Yeah,
wondering
that's-
whether
as an
we,
organization, yes, we would,
right.
but as an individual, no. Okay.
Um, yeah, there it is. Questions about whether a conflict exists may be directed to the NCAC chairperson or to the NCAC parliamentarian who may consult with the Oregon Ethics Commission. So that's actually something we were thinking about adding in. We don't need to, we're going to want
Okay, so I don't need this?
to, no, I think we need the red comment.
Okay,
So we're suggesting we might want to add to the policy or the procedure.
okay,
Or
well,
the quoted comment.
mhm.
So I think it goes down to the next page.
They're good. It's gonna, no, it didn't.
Huh.
That was it.
Oh.
Looks like I didn't get it all.
So I think maybe that should be moved up into either the policy or the procedure area.
Yeah, that would be, sounds like a policy to me.
And then I think we've agreed to put the links in the resources area,
Yeah,
but the other part about actually raising the question if it comes up.
well, if it's a policy, then that we've just unapproved that.
Right.
So it's no longer done.
So we've approved the first paragraph. It's
But there's
so
still more things to do.
yeah. So I think we've already decided what we're doing. That last sentence in red, we can take out because we've decided that we're going to have it in their resources. We decided how to do it. I think if we could take out a comment part and add in the parts in quotes to the policy. And then we're still waiting on Sarah to weigh in on that.
You're getting good at this, Tom.
Did it once before.
Yeah, at least.
Well, I think that's where we were thinking we might not need to go to the Oregon Ethics Commission. It could be that the NCAC chairperson or the parliamentarian might be able to say whether they think a conflict exists. Do we think that's a good
Well,
point?
yeah, but
Or
it does say who may consult, and I think that
Mhm.
that's a good addition. I mean, when things like that come to me, I'm comfortable answering them. But when I am not comfortable, then I'll go
Mhm.
to whatever source is necessary to substantiate the answer.
And that gives a little more authority than the individual themselves going to the Oregon Ethics Commission. And it may never come up. It's just, we kind of went into this quite a bit more because we all kind of blithely say, yeah, no conflicts, no conflicts, but it's hard to know whether there's conflict depending on the given topic. So hopefully
And,
this will give some guidance to all of us who do have to answer these questions.
and again, in consort with Wyatt's comment, or excuse me, Mark's comment, there is a conceivable time when somebody will say, "Hey, wait a minute, you guys."
Right.
And then we better have an answer prepared for that.
Right. Okay, thank you. Moving on.
Okay.
So
We've approved
that-
that, but we still have something highlighted. Why do we have that highlighted? Oh, because email is a records request that we don't
Right.
have public.
Right. And that's another question on the list for Sarah.
Yeah.
I sent.
Okay, and actually, if somebody did a formal records request and we didn't have a policy that some things are not public, then we would have no choice.
Okay, that's on me. I haven't followed up on
Okay.
that. Michael and I will have that for next meeting. I promise.
Okay,
I'm
community
actually,
engagement, that's let me see if I think it's basically changed out of whole cloth. I don't think there was
it
any.
was, yeah, I
Okay,
think
so there's a bunch of stuff that was deleted, and this is all new stuff.
right.
And I did no editing of it. I just dumped it in there.
Yeah, so this is basically what we just went through.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, what I did do is I did turn them into bullets. And by the way, you should never have one bullet, one sub-bullet. Uh,
So
this is
sorry, what?
that probably is not a type. That is probably should be in the introductory. And there are only two types of requests. The requester
Yes,
is not a request. Anyway,
that's true. Good point. Gonna move that. Well, I'll let that on mine. I'll move that in to,
that's yours.
yeah, let me, that's a really good point. Okay. And I'll look at what you did too when I redo this and send it to you. Okay.
Okay, this is once again, I think, let me show the markup. Oh, I thought no, we didn't change this. It was down below. We changed. Do we? Actually, we've not approved this. Did we just read through this and
I thought we did.
I remember discussing it.
Yeah, we approved that one.
Okay.
Can you turn
I-
back on the change tracking so we can see what?
Yeah, I did, but I think it was from before. It's all
Okay,
markup there.
okay.
I believe we did. We did. That needs a little cleanup, but I think
So I think it
really
sounds like just that yellow part needs to be expanded.
okay. So that's why it's pending.
Mhm.
And if we need to take possible ideas include, we need to clean that up a bit. So it's not quite done yet.
Mhm. So this is another question for Sarah. I did bring this up, as I mentioned, to the executive board of policy 12. So I think people liked it. I didn't go through this detail, but
Okay. Parliamentarian grant applications. No. This is something I did. Actually, I'm beginning to wonder if I shouldn't just say reference just
yes.
and anything in the reference section is volatile.
Well, is changeable. Yeah. The map might be an exception, but
Yeah, or not. We could decide we have a new neighborhood.
no, I meant the membership map.
Membership map. Yeah, that's true. It might not change. Probably won't, but rather than calling those out specifically as not changing,
Hmm. How does that sound, everybody? We wouldn't need to take the references section to the membership. I think I would say the reference section, with the exception of the membership map area. You probably have a title on that that's better. But
Pardon?
you probably have a better title for the membership map.
Yeah, okay, okay, actually.
But I think all the rest of it's very routine.
Assuming that I make those names agree, is that okay?
Yeah, and then I think it's not just updates to contact information, it's updates to the reference section, right?
References section.
The title, policy 17, updates to references section.
Oh,
And for consistency, you probably want to make those all caps or all lowercase.
see, what is my, I think it's, I think the other one, subsequent one.
There you go.
Ah, that is,
Yeah.
should be title case.
Damn, that's a good one. I just learned something there. You can find that in there.
He's always fun to watch doing his
Yeah, it is.
editing.
Yeah. Oh, you could do that?
Unfortunately, it isn't, it is all caps. It isn't title case. If it was title case, it would look at the conjunctions and decide that those are not actually capitalizable.
No kidding.
It would be nice. There are other programs which will do that,
Yeah.
but it's halfway
So
there.
could we add something in here like that the references section will be looked at annually for any necessary or better wording that I'm giving, but some kind of an annual review of the content. By our subcommittee.
By which committee?
The NCAC bylaws subcommittee. Yeah, you can clean up. You can clean that up.
I'll clean it up.
Mhm. I just think that way we can check those links. We can check, you know.
Yeah. Any other things that need to be added to that?
I really like that policy. It's great.
Okay, I'll take that as a action item to fix that.
Policy 18 is Wyatt. You and I were talking about this, and he came up with a great definition. Do you want to talk about it, Wyatt?
Sure. I think the comment really kind of says it all as far as I was concerned when trying to create some guardrails for our misuse of the name or a title in the committee or as an officer or as a task force lead or head or whatever you want to call them. And this kind of struck me early on in the process about whether we really needed something. And I think we do in order to maintain our credibility. We don't want people, cowboying out with saying I'm representing the NCAC and I want to get this information and et cetera, without having that kind of authorization, either being specifically authorized or authorized by the executive board. And so that's why I threw it in here.
I would just add that I really like that.
Yeah.
I haven't
Great.
seen it. So.
Yeah, this is new.
I think we should include the term cowboying.
That's for the minutes, Michael.
Yeah, okay.
And I like your comment. Why don't you talk about your comment a little bit too? Because I think that's helpful.
That's just an attorney's excuse for not drafting a lengthy document. Um, the longer a document gets, provision gets, the easier it is to pick it apart. And so simplicity was my goal here. And um, I mean, I could certainly write pages and pages and pages, but they wouldn't be any more clear than what I wrote. So.
And since you're not being paid by the hour just now, we're fine.
So if everybody concurs, then we could take out that comment and any
I'm good with it.
comments on policy 18. I saw Tom made a few little editorial changes there of
Yeah,
which
they
look
look
good.
good.
And any other comments?
Good.
If there are no objections, we'll adopt policy 18.
Let's see. Find my little check mark.
Very nice job, Wyatt. Thank you.
Mhm.
And that's the end of the policies for now. And on to procedures.
Okay, we had some modifications to this. I don't remember where these came from, where the changes. I'm listed as the author, but
I think
don't
you did
remember
it, Tom.
okay.
I did the initial draft and then you fine tuned it.
Oh, okay. So I did the edit on it.
Yeah.
So you're technically no longer guilty of this since I.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think that third bullet or second example bullet.
And that's chair,
Is
not
good.
chairperson.
I like that. I like that. That's really important to be able to do that. Do we want to add anything about excusing people from? I guess that's kind of in meeting. It's almost a separate topic of meeting behavior.
I don't think we want to. I think this should be enough. We got to
Mhm.
mention someplace that that's possible. We don't need to.
It's a nice brushback pitch.
This, I just say this part of it, at the discretion of the chair of the NCAC meeting, puts me right back to being a principal supervising Friday night football games or basketball games. And I never liked that. And so I hope I don't have to do this. So.
Now, so far, people have pretty well behaved, but you never know.
Yeah, I know.
No, we
Well-
had
Yeah.
in years past, I mean, people dropping the F-bomb in Zoom meetings. Luckily not in the last year.
2 years. Yeah.
Mhm,
Year and a half. Year and a half. Year and a half.
mhm.
Yeah. Any comments?
Yeah. Good luck, Mark.
Stop that. We want to encourage him.
Yes.
Exactly.
So, Mark, are you comfortable with that quoted paragraph? I know we've talked about it before, but for you to be able to say before a vote or at the beginning of a meeting or at the first vote.
Okay, let me read okay, you want me to read, I'm sorry, Article 3, Section B, is it what you're?
So it's an example explanation would be, quote, voting on this ballot will be on the honor system.
Oh,
Only
okay,
people
right.
who qualify as members of the NCAC are eligible to vote.
Oh, I see, right.
Members are defined as adults who reside in, own property in, or own a business in the Nescoan area. If you do not qualify as a member, please do not vote. If you are unsure if you qualify, please use the chat to ask about your status. And we could have a link in there to the definitions if anyone cares, but this is kind of short and sweet.
Yeah, I like that. I'll just, the chair would just have to remember to have that in their notes
Right.
prior to a meeting where they're going to have an election or a vote. So, but
Mhm,
yes, that's great.
It's possible it could even be put in a note on the agenda, even so people see it ahead of time.
Yeah,
And there could be a link to that section of the definitions for membership that they could refer to. In the bylaws, they're spread out. So probably it would have been better to stick them all in one section, but
I think the idea about putting it in the agenda, the published agenda, may be something that we want to incorporate into the procedure so that Mark doesn't
yeah,
have to read it. It's
Mhm,
quoted at the bottom of the agenda for everybody to look at.
mhm.
and he could read it too,
Yeah, if he
both,
wants.
but
I don't
No, I like
mind.
that suggestion.
yeah, so should we just add that, Tom, to
Yeah, I just can't remember where the text that you quoted resides.
Mhm.
Um,
it's right here in procedure 1. A
oh,
sample
that one.
explanation
Okay,
would
I was
be,
thinking, okay, so it's in the procedure already. So,
it's
uh,
just, we would, instead of just be given at the meeting, it would also be included, the addition would be to include it in the agenda as well,
okay,
like at the foot of the agenda.
okay. So if we if we want to anoint this as the official statement, we can. What this language says is it's going to be something like this, but
Right.
we can make it this if you want to.
I like it.
I think we should do that. We should make it that.
Yeah.
Okay.
The language will be, shall be.
Okay. Well, you won't need to worry about me. I'll make that statement. So, but this is acceptable,
Yes.
and
I
unless
like it.
okay, and that and that. So the only thing that's left is I will make this a directive for being in the statement and in the notice.
Yeah,
Agenda.
the agenda.
Mhm.
Okay.
So
And
statement before a vote or before the first vote and on the agenda.
yeah.
And Mark, I don't think these don't have to be approved for you to just start doing it. Or say the April membership meeting.
Well, I think I'll have to remember to have Alex do that at that meeting.
Oh, right.
But yeah, but I'll try and remember at the next executive.
Question on the second bullet, I was just kind of looking at this as far as calling out inappropriate comments. How does one actually do that?
So the chair would do
the
that.
chair would say that's out of order.
Yeah, that's prerogative of the chair.
Okay.
Or any member, by the way, who feels that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I was gonna give that relief valve to Mark that, yeah, actually members can say that. And I
Sure.
promise if I hear something like that, I will.
And a member can just say they call a point of order
Right.
and
Point of order. Yeah.
Point of order.
the chair would call on them and they could say not appropriate. So leaving it like this is probably good.
Okay.
Robert's rules kind of states it, but being able to provide that, being able to cut off the audio feed of that member is probably a good thing to have in there.
Oh, but
Not just probably. It's a good addition.
Hmm.
Good question, Susan.
Yeah, I was just thinking, just from a coordination standpoint too, it's like the chair's thing and then have to reach out to the secretary to like nix the audio or.
Mhm.
It's a touchy one, though. Who makes the decision to cut it off and at what point? And is the person making the decision to cut it off, is there a conflict of interest there? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah.
Let's not go there.
Right. So the
This
chair
is-
could, though, with Robert's rules, the chair, we should say that cutting it off would be at the discretion of the chair. But Robert's rules, there could be a point of order saying,
Certainly.
I disagree with cutting this person off.
Oh,
I disagree, blah, blah, blah. And then there could be that
But
determination.
ethically, it should be the action of last resort.
Right. Right. And that's where the if necessary
Yes.
helps. Mhm. And that's where you'll help, Michael, as parliamentarian, that, if someone does
Sure.
do a point of order on it, hopefully it will never come up, but that's
Yeah.
what these are for, is for those
Yeah.
eventualities when that comes up.
It's come up. I served as parliamentarian once with the AFL-CIO.
Hmm.
It came up numerous times.
Sure, sure. Well, and Susan pointed out it did came up here back in 2022, 2023. So,
Oh, I missed that one.
oh, yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think there's I think there's a warning, right? A
Right.
notice, and then a repeated action might warrant that then, but
Yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't necessarily do it the first unless it was super
Mm-hmm.
super bad. but-
Well, a good example is what happened at the State of the Union address next.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I guess, and if necessary, after a warning, maybe cutting off the audio feed.
That's all the discretion part.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Well, you might want to put the honor system depends, et cetera, and in there, and after warning, if necessary. How's that? Cutting off video after warning. So that's at least that's in there. Limiting time, so on and so forth, comma. And after warning may necessary.
No,
No,
no, not there.
Not
Not
there.
there?
The next line. The next line. And if necessary, right in there. And after warning, if necessary.
That's too many necessaries. I'll put in warning and I'll work it in.
Okay. After warning. Yeah.
That's a note to me to
Okay.
figure out how to
Mhm.
say that.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that'll account for arbitrary decision making. Yeah.
Uh, Okay, I'll fix that I think that statement on the top is about what you were wanting. First vote in a meeting.
Before the first vote. So be read before the first vote.
Prior to the first one.
Yes. Excellent.
If we are happy with that, I will accept that. So
Mhm.
Yep.
and I'll fix that, and then that'll show us a change next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Don't know why those are still bullets. Don't think they need to be bullets.
So on procedure 5, roll call vote, it's on my list that I sent to Sarah. She probably took one look at this note and went, oh my God, I don't have time for this. So it's a long list. I will follow up.
Okay, did we approve the changes to the bylaws part of it? If so, I don't know why those are still bullets.
I don't remember if we've discussed it. I think that it sounds good to me.
It does to
Thank
me
you,
as
Michael.
well.
Okay, I was typing. Say it again. This on roll call?
No, on procedure 4, I think you wrote this, the changes to the bylaws. I think
Oh,
it looks
yes,
good.
yeah, right. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
I think it's ready to go.
Okay,
Mhm. If there are no objections, we'll approve this.
Just bylaws. Okay.
okay. Roll call vote, and we're going to defer that. Reports to outside agencies. I think we approved that.
Mm.
Okay. Apparently I must have accepted that and shouldn't have. This looks like it's not quite cooked yet.
I know Wyatt sent that in.
I think the thing that was still in,
I think that's on my list of questions for Sarah as well. Yeah, it's not cooked yet because I think we were going to check with her on would she want to be consulted on any such action. And I think she would be. It would give us some cover.
and I think this is left over.
Mhm.
Okay.
So yeah, it's a lot of this is okay. Now we get to the big one. Do you want to go over that, Tom? A lot of it's new. Or I can, either way.
Yeah, why don't you do it? That way I
So
can give it.
so I just felt like we needed to have some information on how chair people can be selected. It was kind of awkward when we were first elected and we were all new, right, to the NCAC bylaw subcommittee, the time committee, and we didn't even know how to start a meeting because we're newly learning that we were under Oregon public meeting law, and we weren't really sure, how to even get a meeting established and to how to select a chair. And so we are suggesting that at the beginning of any fiscal year, the NCAC parliamentarian or the NCAC chairperson, or we could say the NCAC chairperson or designee, shall convene the first meeting of the year of each subcommittee and task force with the intent of selecting the chairperson and filling any other positions. And in that meeting, all subcommittee or task force members should be encouraged to give introductory remarks about why they're on the team, any relevant experience. So basically introductions and whether they are interested in being the chairperson. And they should also state any potential or real conflicts of interest. If more than one person is interested in being the chairperson, each should state why they're interested and what they hope to accomplish during the upcoming year. Other members should have an opportunity to ask questions. A ballot vote should be taken with the NCAC parliamentarian or chairperson counting the ballots and announcing the count. And then other positions would be filled in a similar way. And then once all that's done, the newly elected chairperson will take over the meeting and the results shall be included in the minutes. So,
And if I might, as far as a ballot vote being taken, only because I'm on a task force of 4, what if it's split? Does the parliamentarian or the chair vote?
that's a really good question, Susan. That's a really good question. I don't think that, I don't know.
I'm just
Okay.
trying to think how many neighborhoods we have. I mean, as far as,
Mhm.
sorry, I didn't mean to open up a can of worms, but now it's making me wonder how many neighborhoods we have for the outreach task force, if it's an even or odd number.
So hopefully it wouldn't get to that point, but you're right. I mean, we should have something for that eventuality that the NCAC representative would break a tie. And that's the only thing I can think of.
Well, either that or the proposal fails if it doesn't get a majority.
Well, selecting a chair though has to be done.
Yeah,
Well, in the default on all committees, the chair is the ex officio member of the chair does have a vote unless otherwise indicated that they do not have a vote. But the chair can, pass. They don't have to vote.
But this is talking about at the beginning of a term where you don't have a chair and you need to elect a chair,
Yeah.
or you need a select or
European have
appoint
a
or
vote.
whatever a chair,
Mhm.
you know, because that can matter. And maybe if you don't have enough information, the NCAC person coming in handles that meeting and defers the vote till the next meeting when people can
That's,
kind of get to know each other a little better. Maybe that's what we do.
yeah. I think,
Because, I like in our case, hopefully it worked out, but we didn't know one another, right? And so, and in the case of the community plan, it could have been that there was someone else who might have been uh, another candidate. I don't know how they came up with their chair, but we just didn't have any procedures. So it just seemed like that would be helpful to
yeah.
have something.
well, we might want to articulate in that first paragraph the details of responsibilities of the chair or whomever is convening as to some of the rules and regulations expected of that subcommittee.
That's a good point, Michael. We could add that in.
Yeah, as an introduction and so on and so forth.
There
Carry
should
on.
be a charter for any new subcommittee.
Mhm. And they could just go over that.
Yeah,
The
sure.
NCAC representative could
Yeah.
go over that responsibilities that are here in these policies and procedures. That's a good point before the election.
Well, I'll tell you what, how about if I handle that this week? I'll write up some stuff for paragraph 1 there on
Okay.
introductory remarks and organizing the subcommittee.
Great.
Okay. Sounds good.
Remarks. Yeah, I'm going to introduction remarks.
Uh, Other than that, other a ballot vote, I guess maybe informal. A lot of times there's, if necessary, how about
Yeah, I think if not, that's a good addition if necessary. The problem is if you've got, this is saying if more than one person is interested. So there, I do think about a ballot vote is necessary
oh, okay.
because people may hesitate they may not want someone to know. If it's like 4 people, then maybe it's obvious, but you know, I don't know. People are stuck with whoever becomes chairperson for the rest of that year. Otherwise,
I suspect it's the chairperson who gets stuck.
I'm
Well,
gonna
there's
say
that.
But
There's that. So. And then the subcommittee shall have a person who's dedicated to taking and maintaining the minutes of meetings. In the absence of that person, the chairperson is responsible for the minutes of all meetings. And then do you want to go through the next part, Tom, the task forces?
we did actually salvage a few words from the previous one.
Mm-hmm.
Task forces are.
You're missing
I'm not sure. I'm just second guessing myself. The form and format, okay, that's one thing. Or is it two?
One
Tom,
or two, I would say,
It's
or
two.
are is appropriate.
Yeah, that's two.
after generally, you're missing a T in front of the HE. Generally, the number of members of a task force.
Ah,
Be great if we could get 15. Already we're close.
well, if you have more than 15 people, it's not a small group anymore.
Right.
And this requires a small group.
Do you mind scrolling up just a little bit? Yeah, I was just curious. Okay, got it. I was just checking something.
Academically, we define a small group as 5 or fewer. It's interesting to note that evidence in research shows that the interaction possibilities in groups double with each additional person to the group.
Actually, it's worse than that, but
Well, yeah, yeah, or maybe
it's a combinatorial.
yeah, yeah,
It multiplies.
multiplies.
Yeah, I think where I like this number you picked, Tom, of the 15 is for something like the outreach task force, where we've got these different areas of Nescoin that are being broken up. And so each person might have a task to carry out within their respective area. It might not, be a real issue.
And
Although you might want to
behavioral-
have a little board within the task force that comes up with the ideas and then
Well,
sends them out to the other members to.
why would we want to put a limit on it anyway? I mean, that's
the only is going back to behavioral science. They're generally speaking, groups larger than 15 fragment. It can happen smaller, but 15 seems to be the critical amount. 5, of course, is the number of people which is ideal for getting something done. But it's just a recommendation. It's not a prohibition. But the reason behavioral science says so, or at least said so when I was educated.
yeah.
Okay, any comments other than Michael's gonna fix the introductory remarks section? Or do you guys want to take a look at this and comment at the next meeting? It's a lot of new material.
I'm okay with it.
I am as well.
Okay, so I will accept the things Okay. I don't know why that D is there.
Okay. We're making some progress.
Mm.
So procedure 9. Susan, do you want to go through what your updates were? I think you kind of briefly mentioned it earlier in the meeting.
Yeah, and I think Tom did some great massaging of it as well. So prior to each NCAC general meeting, the monitoring task force shall reach out to the 4 entities, the Nesquin Regional Sanitary Authority, Nesquin Regional Water District, the sheriff, and the fire chief. We might want to put the fire chief on a 4th bullet as I'm looking at
Yes,
this.
it's a deal with the fire chief. I guess I better not.
And we no longer have general meetings, we have membership meetings.
All right.
As a matter of just being picky, I think the sheriff and the fire chief, it should be really we're consulting with that entity. And so it's the Tillamook County Sheriff's Office Department rather, and the Nesquin Regional Fire Protection District. Or Nestucca, sorry.
Okay. I'll get the official titles.
Yeah.
It's an office, really.
Yeah.
It's a good clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if they're big enough to have a public information officer or not, if we would go through that, or
Yeah.
if we actually try to talk with the sheriff or fire chief.
Well, what's in the references is actually their names and numbers.
Yeah, I got their
Perfect.
emails for both
Perfect.
and phone. And then, let's see, that a report from these entities shall be placed on the meeting agenda. And then this kind of second stack of people to contact are the,
Well, before you go
Oh, sorry.
on that, could we say as appropriate? Because we may not need an update each meeting, right?
and there may be nothing to report.
Right. So a report from down below, Tom, a report from these entities up above.
Okay.
Shall
Okay.
be
there you go.
placed, report from these entities should be placed on the meeting agenda as appropriate or something.
Okay. Gotcha.
Mhm.
Appropriate. I like that word.
Yeah, okay.
It's always good to create new words because we don't have enough.
So on the next part, actually, when I'm reading this first sentence, the monitoring task force shall contact as a second priority, Oregon State Parks and, instead of a comma, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service.
Would that be the US,
Yeah, it would
as
be.
long as it lasts?
Mhm.
Sorry.
No. Yeah, let's hope that.
And we should put periods after US.
Mhm.
Or spell
That's
it
the
out.
Federal Wildlife Refuge, if we're going to incorporate that.
Refuge.
Federal
So it's there in
Wildlife.
the parentheses.
Is it? Is that what the
Yeah,
federal,
it's a wildlife refuge.
is that the name of the entity? I'm
No,
looking.
it's U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service
See what you're saying, yeah, sorry.
is the entity.
Parentheses.
The property is the Federal Wildlife Refuge.
Mhm.
Instead of land, it should be wildlife
Yeah,
with caps.
yes.
Whoa. golly, that was, problem is that my keyboard is nowhere near my screen.
Oh, and I wonder, we might want to make that plural because there's more than one refuge within the Nescoin boundary, I believe. There's
Yeah,
the
there's
village.
one in Ortown, but that's the Bureau of Land Management.
I was just thinking the one south of the golf course, but there's also the one north up near the Tsunami Trail. I don't know if that's all regarded as one
I
refuge.
think it's the same.
Is
Yeah,
it?
yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
So just singular.
Singular?
We can figure it out. That's an easily
Mhm.
editable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In fact, that's something to put Tom, in that section of resources, I mean, references being changeable. In the bylaws, we state that we have the ability to make editorial changes. We probably should have something like that somewhere saying that we can make editorial, non-substantive changes that's similar to the statement in the bylaws
Okay.
without a need
make-
for approval.
I'll make a note of that rather than trying to find where I have that.
Mhm.
This is a perfect example of the specifics on the use of name and title.
Mhm. Mhm. It is.
And so then, let's see, under that, the monitoring task force shall contact as appropriate or necessary additional agencies for update information. And right now, like in the village, what's going on is the elephant seal. So that would be example of an additional agency because it's an aggressive elephant seal.
Yeah, that's NOAA.
And so that would be, now we have that the monitoring task force should include between 2 to 5 people. Each individual will be assigned to one or more agencies. And Guy Siebert, I sent the draft to him, and these were his questions under the open questions that he raised. What does the NCAC do with these reports other than present them to the membership? It seems that if there's a concern about something, the NCAC could, as a result of the monitoring, invite an agency or the district a meeting to answer questions to give a more detailed report. And if a monitoring report generates questions from the membership, who follows up? Is it the monitoring task force? Is it the executive board? Is it the chair of the NCAC?
Yeah, those are all good questions. I would think for the first one that the executive board should invite an agency to come answer those questions. So the monitoring task force chair would be a member of the executive board to bring this up at the executive board meeting and for further action. Really out for both.
Yeah, I agree with you.
So
I
you
mean,
want-
the executive board could authorize the monitoring task force member to follow up. Because they're not supposed, task force isn't supposed to take real action without authority. So it's not a subcommittee.
So what's the next step?
Would you like me to draft something on that, Sarah, Susan, or do you want to draft it? You're going to draft it?
I can do it or offline and
Okay.
email it to you.
Okay, why don't you and I talk about it then?
Okay.
We'll have it for next time.
And then in the reference, I don't know if we want to go to the reference
No,
section.
I can.
All of the listed organization, so to speak, to make sure that we're not leaving anybody off the list.
Mhm.
We might want to do that since it's kind of fresh in our head. It's referenced.
So we are getting late. I think what I'm going to do is, this is a great list, Susan, that you've prepared. I'm going to ask people to look at that in the draft 24 that Tom sends out, and do that offline. And thank you for all that work compiling this. So any other comments for Susan on the monitoring task force? I'd like to kind of move on here to,
So are we happy with these changes?
Mhm.
yeah. Any objections? Okay.
For the policy for monitoring task force, I don't know if we went over that. Was that approved?
I think it was.
Yeah, I couldn't
Okay.
remember.
Yeah, I think we approved it, but it
We
doesn't say
approved it,
that,
we
does
didn't-
it?
I
we did-
know.
Did not flag it, though. I'll flag it. Well, probably need to change up. It's probably need to do a little editorial on that.
Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
So do you want to work on that, Tom, with Susan?
I can do that. I'll
Yeah,
just-
so we'll
I'll
take the
clean it up.
check mark off.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise it's great. So, yeah,
Okay.
okay, sounds good.
Okay, where did you want, where do we go next?
I think it's procedure 10. I don't know what
Yeah.
next.
Yeah.
I still need to write that. Okay.
And 11 went away.
And I think I'm supposed to do, let's just put me on procedure 12. I'll be in the car driving up to Oregon to see my sister in a play next
fun.
week. And so a lot of time in the car going up and down with my laptop. That should be a
I assume
quickie.
you're not driving while you're doing that.
No, my husband will drive. He doesn't
okay.
like me to drive. So
Okay.
it's
Just wanna be
calmer
sure.
if he drives. I'm actually a better driver, but he doesn't
Of course
agree,
you
so.
are.
I'm happy to sit there and read. Okay, and then I think Michael and I are still working on the survey guide. That's me.
Survey that I don't have that assigned. Oh yeah, no, we don't.
I think it's under Michael and me from the policy.
Okay. We'll just leave it at that then. We don't know about archives.
So that's
Yep.
in the letter to Sarah.
Yeah.
It all, yeah.
I'm not sure what happened to 15 here. I love Word. Did I mention that? I have no idea what that used to say.
Why?
Guess we'll have to go into a earlier version.
Let me just.
Also agenda selection on how notices called for in specific sections of the
Yeah.
bylaws are published, e.g. meetings.
Let's see what it says with no markups. Okay, with no markups, it looks okay.
Wow, that was impressive, Michael.
Yeah, well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's parliamentarian who can drag meaning out of
Actually, it's
nothingness.
college professor reading freshman's writing.
Fair enough.
So it looks like that's under you, Wyatt. Are you,
Yep.
you have that on your list? Okay.
I think I may go ahead and accept
Fix it.
that because it's so messed up.
Yeah.
I'll try to bang something out this week.
This is the procedure on conflict of interest. I think they're already called that. I've lost track. Anyway, Brett,
I think this is new. As you know, we send in sections for the policy and then the procedure and then the references on all of this. So I think we took out, we're done with the comment. I think yeah.
I love that term, for someone who is ill motivated.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
a good,
It's lawyer speak.
yeah.
I hadn't heard that one before. I'm learning all these terms.
I'm not making that up either, unfortunately.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that?
I don't get credit for it.
Hmm.
So does this sound okay to everybody, or do we need to add anything else?
Yep, I think that's good.
works for me.
Okay, let's approve it.
And find myself a little check mark to copy. Of course, there's none here. There we go.
All right.
All right, and I think we're done with the procedures for now. When we go into the references, I don't think we need to review the references at this point. So, Tom, thank you for all this work.
Yeah.
And thank you all for all your work on coming up with the content. So for the next meeting, there's still several things that are on my plate to do. And I think some of us have some others, though. We'll focus on those for the next meeting, as well as come up with, go back to some of these that have a few action items that are simpler. I think we still have a lot of content for the next meeting, but at the next meeting on March 21st, I think we'll be needing to really focus on the feedback session planning. Tom and I are going to talk before the next meeting about philosophy of how we organize these feedback sessions. We'll need to get some notice out. And so please be thinking, and maybe, well, we've got 2 minutes here. In terms of a philosophy in general of whether we go through the policies at like the first 2 feedback sessions, that we go to the procedures, or whether we do any related policies or procedures that go with a given policy or policies. I think I'm leaning in favor of the latter, because I think if we structure them where we go into the policies and then the procedures, when we get to the procedures section, we're going to review the policies again anyway. So let's just handle it. But think about that. And then I don't think we need to go through these in order. I think we should probably plan on going through them in order of importance in case we don't have time to get to all of them for the end of the meeting. So we can draft a format to present at our next meeting of what we tackle first in the feedback sessions. And then also, I think it'd be good, like we did with the bylaws section with the bylaws, that, each of us can take certain policies and procedures to take the lead on presenting. Does that sound okay to everybody? And we'd follow a similar format to what we did with the bylaws in terms of the discussion. So if you have any favorite policies or procedures you'd like to assign yourself to or be assigned to, bring that to the next meeting also. So I'll put out sometime during this week a draft with the list for people to sign up, and then we can talk about it at the next meeting. How does that sound?
Sounds great.
And are there any of the meetings on the schedule that you cannot make? Understanding that we're going to change the one on April 19th to April 26th.
I won't know until March 16th when I get my April schedule,
Okay,
and I can tell you then, but I'll do my best. I may
okay,
not be able to make one of them, but yeah.
okay. All right, thank you.
Mhm.
I think that's it. I think we've had a rousingly good meeting. Thank you guys very, very much. Any comments before we adjourn?
Nope.
Okay, and I'll put out an action item list this weekend, so.
So
And-
I'll post the document as it is at the moment, and then I'll proceed from there to make changes. I
That sounds
won't-
great.
I- I won't accept
ch-
anything that's not, for the next version, I won't accept anything which has not been already accepted in this document.
Perfect, thank you. And you'll change it to our 24 on the titles on here too, right? I think all the headings
Yeah.
still have our 23.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Tom. That actually is really helpful in going through and figuring out what needs to still be done. And my big action item is getting together with Sarah. I'm gonna send her another note today.
That's,
Good luck, I know.
I mean, this is peripheral to her responsibilities, and the community plan is central, but even that, she's not able to give us as much
Right.
time as we would like.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I'll talk to her about that. If she doesn't have time really to go through it, we may just have to do an approval of the membership without, where later seeing the attorney weigh into it. I don't know. I don't think it's quite as critical, but well, a lot of these things are though, so. Okay, well, thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Have a great couple of weeks, and meeting adjourned.
Thanks, Nancy.
Thank you.
You.
And-
Thank you at 11:32, and thank you for hanging in for 2.5 hours, everybody.
Yeah, I am gonna change accept these changes on the front.
Okay,
They don't really matter. Okay,
yeah, that sounds good. Thank you.
I look forward to
Okay.
all of your correspondence.
Okay, thank you very much. And Tom, you won't be here at the next meeting, right? So
Okay.
we'll just get
Oh.
that updated document to you.
I'll make any changes that I've taken responsibility for shortly, but
great.
anything I get before I leave, I'll include, and then that will be the baseline.
When do you leave?
Let's see,
Where are you going?
It's just,
going to my, um,
I think that time you're just going to the airport, right?
yeah, that's picking up my granddaughter from the airport
How
that
nice.
morning.
Good for you.
I can't put that off.
Mhm.
So actually I'm going to now adjourn the meeting at 11:33, and I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.